Starting a maker business was one of the most rewarding decisions I ever made, but it's also been one of the most painful experiences I've had to endure. This time I want to talk about 9 brutal truths that I learned the hard way as I became a successful business owner. This won't be a list of simple motivational quotes or business school tips. This is real world knowledge, and understanding this made me much better at my job. So if you're a maker with a small business and you're struggling to get ahead, this video could save you years of pain that I lived through. So let's get into it. So when you have a maker business, maybe you're just getting started or it's up and running, but you're struggling a bit, you're going to get advice from people around you, family and friends. And they're going to give you that free advice, and I'll tell you that almost all of it is worth every penny you paid for it. So you have to be very careful, with people who think they know stuff, but a lot of it is theory or just complete falsehoods. So in this video, I wanted to talk about things that I learned the hard way, things that people told me were false turned out to be true. And it took me years to unwind a lot of that. So what you're hearing here are not theories. They're basically, I'm documenting my battle scars. And I broke this down into 3 sections. The first section is 3 truths about you, then 3 truths about your products, and finally 3 truths around selling. And that's enough to get going here. So let's get going and start talking about you. And rule number 1 is don't waste time on things that aren't real. And we all do it. We all focus on what ifs, and it really saps time. So just remember, don't try to fix things that aren't broken. Now, this is especially true if your customers aren't complaining. And if that's the case, then there is nothing going on. So focus your efforts on just things that specifically impact your business. So creation of your products, sales, and delivery. And that's all you need to worry about. Now, from a personal example here, one of the things that I tend to lean on quite often that I shouldn't, and I still do it today, but I bring myself back to reality. I often focus on monthly projections and revenue. The reality is, I have no idea what's going to happen as far as my business goes month to month. I don't know what the revenue is going to be, so why am I wasting time on it? And that's definitely one of the things you shouldn't focus on, because really you're a creative, so focus on the creative things. So truth number 2 is finish or fail fast. And what this really means is when you're trying to make something, stop trying to plan every minute detail and just start creating. You're going to find small failures, and you're going to find them early, but what that does is result in a better direction later. I tend to evolve designs rather than striving for perfection, because I learned through many battles that perfection is the enemy of good, and you really do want to ship things and ultimately sell them. So in my personal case, I tend to want to spend more time on every project I do, but I'll find out halfway through that what I'm trying to do is actually impossible, and I'll just stop working, and maybe I'll go talk to a customer and say, look, we have to do it a different way. I could toil away on this, but I have to know when to quit, because when I know I can't win, why would I keep trying? Truth number 3 is just because you can doesn't mean you should. And this should be pretty obvious to most of us, because we all have a finite amount of time and energy to devote to a product, a customer, or even our business. But this is one of those places where those advisors that gave you that free advice will say, yeah, put as much as you possibly can in there, because you want your customer to be very happy. And I want that, but if I see something, even if I know it's doable, if a customer didn't ask for it, I'm not doing it, because you run the risk of taking way more time than you thought, and you're doing something that the customer didn't even ask for. So in my particular case, one of the places where I've had to improve a lot is because I'm customer focused, I like to say yes. And I've gotten much better at it. So rather than just saying, sure, I can do this, I will always still say yes, but I will then follow that up with, but it's going to take this much time and it will cost you this much more money. Just to set an expectation, because a customer is not going to be happy if you pack too much in and the quality suffers, or it took way longer than you said it was going to take. All right, let's move over to the product side here. And truth number 4 is if you build products, products will help build your business. Now, this is a bit contrary to how I run my business, but if you want your business to grow, then stop only selling your time and start selling some products. Because here's the truth, your time doesn't scale, but products always will. Now, in my business, I do a lot of custom orders, one-off designs, a lot of constant back and forth with customers. And sure, I make decent money, but it owns me. And that's a bit bothersome. Now, I do have some products. I sell quite a few designs for laser cutting, and I can sell those over and over again. And that has a huge benefit. I can make sales while I'm doing other things, for example, like sleeping, which is a good thing, or working on new ideas, or spending some time with my family, and that's a good thing. You don't need 100 products. You just need one or two that solve real problems for customers that are going to actually buy them and use them without you having to handhold them on every transaction. Products don't just make money, they help give you freedom. And if you build the right ones, they're going to help build your business. So truth number 5 is know the value of your products. And by that, I'm specifically focused here on underpricing because that's more common with people just getting started or in the early days of a business. But you can certainly overprice too, and that will just make you non-competitive. But knowing the value of what your products are, that basically means you're setting confident pricing, and that will just truly set the tone for the value of everything you do. Basically, that will include, how valuable your time and skill are, your knowledge of some of the tools. Now, I've done this myself, and I've done this also at craft markets where I see people selling something that I know took at least 2 hours to make, and they're selling it for $10, which is barely material cost. And I'll literally say to them, look, I don't know you, you don't know me, but I'm telling you, if you triple the cost of this thing, people will buy it. And then you go back to them and say, how did it go? And they say, yeah, I'm suddenly selling these things where I wasn't before. What you're doing is raising yourself into a higher bracket. And we'll talk more about this with the selling. Truth number 6 is that the product isn't finished just because you delivered it. Communications matters, and it's what separates someone who just wants to make money from someone who actually wants to build things that matter. So you need to follow up with customers once you deliver something and say, hey, is everything okay? And when they reach out to you and say something bad happened, you need to support them. Great post-sales care just turns into buyers and loyal customers. And that's really what you want in your business if you don't want to pay for a bunch of advertising. So in my case, I built a high-end chess set for somebody, and 6 months after I delivered it, they reached out to me and said, hey, the board cracked. And when we established that the board cracked because the humidity in their house was 35%, I could have easily said, hey, this is your problem. You messed this up. You didn't follow the instructions. But instead, I bit the bullet and I said, I'll make you a new board. And in the future, keep your house at the right humidity so that you don't run into these problems. And customers happy, they'll come back for some more business. I'm happy because I don't have somebody out there bashing me because I didn't solve their problem, even though it wasn't my fault. I like happy customers, and that's what this whole truth means. Truth number 7 is sell to rich people, not poor people. Now, I know it's going to sound harsh, but hear me out. You want to sell to people who actually have disposable income and are willing to spend it on you, and they can afford your work. Rich people aren't always flashy, but they're definitely value driven, and you really want to serve people who are ready, able, and willing to pay you for quality. These are people who are almost always going to respect your work. They're going to pay you fast, and they often come back for more. Now, early on, I started to do volume items so I could sell cheap to the we'll say regular buyers, but guess what? They haggled the most, they expected the most, and they complained the most. So I dropped it. I switched away from volume to primarily custom work, so my margins are much higher. Now, there's a second benefit of this. Because I have higher margins, I don't have to make as much, so I don't have to work as hard. Now, I will say, before you think I'm totally greedy here and this is all I care about is money, I do donate quite a bit of my time and project work to people and charitable organizations just because it's good for the world. So it's not all about money. Sometimes you do want to help people who don't have the means to pay for your service. Truth number 8 is always sell before you build. Not too long ago, I spent weeks designing and building these really nice travel cigar boxes. I focused properly in some areas, like I made sure it met the rich criteria, and I thought people were going to love these things. But guess what? It bombed. Why? Well, because I never actually asked any people if they wanted these. So as a result of this, the lesson I've relearned is I sell before I build. I post mock-ups, I see who's interested, I pre-sell a batch, I test some more interest, because if nobody wants these things now, they're probably not going to want them in the future. So I want to know before I actually manufacture a bunch of these that it's going to be successful. The basic rule is validation first, build second, always. And let's finish off with a simple one here. Truth number 9 is don't finance your customers. You're not a bank. Stop acting like one. I used to say to people, sure, just pay me whenever, next week is fine. And then I'd end up getting stuck chasing money that I'd already worked for. It just was not cool. What I learned the hard way was you always get payment up front. Ideally, it's 100%, 50% deposit at a minimum. And don't even get into terms. These 30, 60, 90-day terms are just a trap, and you're definitely not a big enough business to handle them. What you have to understand is your time is money. It's valuable, and you need to make sure you're getting paid for it. And it's as simple as that. All right, so those were 9 brutal truths that I learned the hard way. Now, some of these cost me time, some of them cost me money. A few of them almost made me quit. It was brutal as I was growing up in my business. But understanding every single one of these definitely made me better at my business. Your friends and family, they're always going to try and help you with free advice, but you're truly the only one who's going to understand your business. And that means you need to find your own truth. So now it's time to hear from you. Drop a comment down below if you are resounding with any of these, or maybe you're struggling with some of them right now. Just let me know. And if you are trying to grow your business, or you finally managed to get one that's actually working for you, then be sure to subscribe and like this video. I'm always happy to share more of the insights from my own past that will hopefully help you. And I'll wind down here and say get out there, make your world, and I'll see you next time.